Good evening, guys. In the last session, we started our discussion related to JUnit and unit testing, right? So we covered what is unit testing and we understood what is JUnit, what are the annotations that are available in the JUnit, what are the assertions available in the JUnit, what is a mocking, why we need to go for mocking, and we discussed about what is code coverage and what is the industry standard with respect to the code coverage. Then we started implementing unit testing for small applications. So if we take one example as a calculator.java, so this is our normal Java class. We can call it as a target class. For this target class, we have implemented unit testing by using JUnit. So to implement that JUnit, we have created a test class with a name called calculator test. Okay. In this test class, we have implemented the logic for this, right? So calculator class object is there. Now, by using this calculator, we are calling the methods of the real calculator class, and whatever the result we are getting, we are verifying that result, whatever the result we are expecting, is it matching with the actual result or not? If expected result matches with the actual result, then I can say testing is passed. Unit test case is passed. And I have taken another example also. In that, we have taken a class which will check whether the given string is a palindrome or not. Okay. So for this class also, we have implemented unit test class. So here in this unit test class, we have taken multiple inputs as a parameterized test, right? So here multiple inputs we are going to supply. If the given text is a palindrome, then the test will be successful. Otherwise, the test will be failure. Okay, that also we have implemented. So unit testing. So here we have used @test annotation, and we have used @parameterized test annotation. What is the purpose of @test annotation? @test annotation is used to represent this method is a unit test method. Then what is the purpose of parameterized test annotation? It is used to test the method with the different inputs, right? Now, if you go for @test, that method will be executed only one time. Now I want to execute same method with multiple inputs. For that, we are going for parameterized test. I'm passing 4 values so that that test case will be executed 4 times with different values, right? Test and parameterized test annotations are available. We have used @value source annotation. @value source annotation is used to represent the value for the test case. What is the input that you want to provide to test the method? That we are representing by using @value. Okay. Next one. Let us take another example here, guys. Another example here, that is, there is a class that will take the input and it will throw some exception based on the input. String utils.java class is available. Now here, whatever the string that you supply, that string, it will convert into integer and it will return the integer. This is my method, guys. Okay. String to int conversion. Here the method is taking string as a parameter, and that string, it is converting to integer. For example, if you pass empty string, or if you pass some null value, or if you pass some empty string, then it is going to throw some exception. Okay. Now here, I want to write test case for this method. Guys, in this method, how many scenarios we have to test? Can you tell me that? Can you tell me that? How many scenarios we have to test here? How many scenarios we have to test here, guys? Can you tell me? 1 scenario or 2 scenarios? are three scenarios. Okay. Null value, empty value, and actual number. So three scenarios we have to test for this method. So we need to develop three unit test cases for this method. All right. Now look at this method. This method is taking string as a parameter, and here some condition check is available. If string is null or if string length is 0, then it is going to throw the exception. Otherwise, it is going to convert that string to integer by using %. Okay, for that, let us create test case logic. Let us create the test case logic here. Now, let's check this. Public void test string to int. Okay, this is the method that I'm writing, string to test. Okay, string to int. That is the method. I want to test that method. Okay, so for this, let me create the object for the target class. What is our target class? String utils that we have taken. String utils, SU is equal to new string utils. I'm creating object for this class because I want to call the method of that object. Okay, SU dot string to int. Let me pass 1, 2, 3 some value. String to int. I'm passing 1, 2, 3 value. What is the output? I'm getting some integer that is actual. Now 1, 2, 3 I'm passing as a string that will be converted to integer format. Okay. Now I want to verify, is it working or not? Set equals expected value is 1, 2, 3, and what is the actual value? Now I want to represent this as a test. For that we are using @test annotation. Okay, so I'm calling target class method. Whatever the result I'm getting from the target class, I'm comparing with the expected value by using set equals. Let us run this. Run as JUnit test. I'm trying to execute this as a JUnit test. Let us verify working or not. Yes, this method is executed successfully and we got the green color bar also. So with this, one scenario is successful. One scenario is successful. Are you guys getting my point? Now I want to test another scenario. Okay, let me write one more test method. So here let me give test to string to int 1. Now I want to write another test case number 2 for the same method. Test case number 2 for the same method. Here I'm not going to pass any input. Here I'm not going to pass any input. When I don't pass any input, what is the expectation, guys? Now I'm calling this method by passing empty string. When I pass empty string as the input for this method, what this method should throw, what this method should return? If I pass the correct value, that should be converted to integer and it will be returning that integer value. If I pass the empty string or if I pass null value, for example, I'm passing null value. String to int, I'm passing null value. When I pass null value, what is the behavior of this method? When I pass null value, what is the behavior of this method? That method should return some value or that method should throw some exception. Method should throw some exception. Are you guys getting my point? Method should throw some exception. If a method is throwing some exception, then only I can say method is working as expected. Okay, guys. When I pass the number as a string, that should be converted to integer. That is one scenario. Okay. When I pass a null value, that method should throw some exception. Okay. How to test this scenario? When we pass null value, really method is throwing some exception or not. What exception it should throw? It should throw illegal argument exception. Okay, how to test this? Now observe, I'm going to call asset throws. I'm going to call asset throws. So now whenever we call that method, is that method throwing that exception or not? What is that? Illegal argument exception that class. When that illegal argument exception is going to come? When that illegal argument exception is going to come? That illegal argument exception will come whenever we call that method su dot string to int with a null value, with some null value. When we pass null value as the input, that method should throw illegal argument exception. Then only we can say that the test case is successful. So how to verify the method is throwing exception or not? If I give the correct input, I should get this output. This is expected. If I give some wrong input, then I should get the exception. That is unit testing. That is the way we are going to check our methods are working as expected or not. Let us run this. Let us run this. Run as JUnit test. There are two test cases available in our class. That one is with the actual number. Second one is with the null value. Now see here, both the tests are successful or not? Both tests are successful or not? Both tests are successful. What is the third one? What is the third scenario? If I pass empty string also, I should get the exception. Then only I can say method is working as expected. Okay. Test 3. Test 2, test 3. This is for positive scenario. These two are for the negative scenario. Guys, writing the actual logic is easy. Writing the unit testing logic is difficult. You see, for this one method, we are writing 3 test cases. So what will happen if I pass the correct number? What will happen if I pass the null value? What will happen if I pass the empty value? Okay. If I pass the correct number, it should give the correct output. If I pass the null value, it should throw the exception. I'm checking whether my method is throwing the exception or not. If I pass the empty value, my method should throw the exception. I'm trying to check this behavior. Positive scenario I'm testing and negative scenario also I'm testing. When we are going for unit testing, you need to test the method with the positive scenario as well as with the negative scenario. So total, I have 3 test cases in my class. Those 3 test cases got executed as expected. 3 test cases available, 3 test cases I have executed, and those are successful. Are you guys able to understand this logic? What is asset throws? What is the meaning of asset throws? Asset throws is used to expect exception, is used to verify method is throwing the exception or not. Very good. This is another scenario of unit testing. Okay. Now, let's go with mocking. As of now, we implemented normal test cases with our methods. Now, I want to go for unit testing with mocking. So how to perform unit testing by using mocking? Let us try to understand. So in the last session, we have already discussed that mocking is the process of creating substitute objects for the real object. Here we have already discussed theoretically what is mocking. Theoretically, we discussed what is mocking. The process of creating substitute object for the real object is called as mocking. Mock object nothing but dummy object. So mock objects are used for unit testing. So here, whenever we are doing the testing, let me go for the example with the code. Let me show you that. So here I'm having one class, service class is available. That service class is having dependency with the DAO class. Okay. So here one DAO is available. It is just a dummy DAO. It is an interface, guys. This is just a dummy DAO interface. For this DAO, do we have any implementation or we don't have any implementation for the DAO? Guys, can you see for the DAO, only interface is available, implementation not available. And I have a service. I have a service. So in the service, I'm having methods. Okay. In the service, I'm having the methods. This is constructor of the service to inject the DAO object. dependency injection without Spring. And this is one method to get the name based on the DAO. And this is login method based on the DAO. Now here, service is dependent on the DAO. For the DAO, interface is available, but implementation not available. Now I want to perform unit testing for my service. So if I want to perform unit testing for the service, DAO is dependent. For the DAO, implementation is not available. So in this scenario, I want to go for isolated unit testing. Can you guys tell me what is isolated unit testing? Guys, all of you, can you tell me what is isolated unit testing? Can you guys tell me what is isolated unit testing? Come on, guys, make it fast. Can you guys tell me what is isolated unit testing? I need to test only my service method, not the DAO method. But without having the DAO, can we test our service in this example? Without having the DAO, can we test a service method in this example? No, because service method is calling DAO method. For that, we need to go for mocking. Okay, now see here in this example, I'm going to use Power Mock. This project is not based on the Spring Boot, guys. It is a normal Java project. So in this project, we are having JUnit dependency and we are having Power Mock dependency. Okay, next example I will do with the Spring Boot also. Right? For now, let us understand what is Power Mock and why we need to go for the Power Mock. Here scenario is simple. I have service class. In the service class, I have two methods. Those methods are dependent on DAO methods. DAO only interface is available. I don't have any implementation for the DAO. This is my service. Service is talking to DAO interface. Inside the service, there are methods available. Now I want to test these methods. Okay, method 1 is available and method 2 is available. Method 1 available and method 2 available. I want to test these methods. Now service is talking to DAO. DAO is just a interface, implementation not available. Now in order to test my service method, DAO object is required. Instead of waiting for the real DAO, can I test my service by using mock DAO? Can I test my service by using mock DAO, guys? Is it possible to perform unit testing on the service method? Yes, we can perform unit testing on the service method. For that, we need the DAO object. So real DAO or mock DAO? We will go for mock DAO. What is mocking? The process of creating substitute object for the real object is called as mocking. Mock object is nothing but dummy object. Okay. Mock objects are used for unit testing. By using these mock objects, we can achieve isolated unit testing. Isolated unit testing means testing only our target method functionality. Okay. There are several mock frameworks available. Those are Easy Mock, Wire Mock, JMock, Power Mock, etc. Now I am going to use Power Mock. Okay. Now let me go and create test class for this. User service test class is available. This class is responsible to perform unit testing for this service class. It is a normal service Java class. This Java class is having dependency with the DAO. Now I want to perform unit testing for this service. How to perform unit testing for the service? For that, we need mock object. So let's understand how to implement testing. Public void. What is the first method? This is a setter method to inject the DAO object into service. Okay. Get name method is available. Let's test it. Public void test get name method. Public void test get name method. Okay. So what is our target class? Our target class is user service. User service is equal to new user service. It is expecting user DAO object. user service class constructor expecting user DAO object as a dependent. User DAO is a interface. So we cannot create the object for the interface. Then what I need to do? Create DAO mock object, create mock object for user DAO, define behavior for the mock DAO, inject mock DAO into service through constructor injection, then call service method for testing. Okay. So this is the logic that I need to perform. Create the mock object for the DAO, define the behavior for the mock object. Okay. For the mock DAO, we need to define the behavior, inject mock DAO into service class through constructor injection, then call the service method for testing. Here our service class is available. Our service class is expecting DAO object as a parameter. Now observe carefully how we are going to create the mock object. That is very, very, very important. Okay. So we are using power mock here, guys. So for that, there is a class called power mockito dot mock. For which one we need to create the mock? For user DAO, we need to create the mock. With this, we got user DAO mock object. So power mockito dot mock method is available. This is used to create the mock object for the given class or for the given interface. In our scenario, user DAO is available. For user DAO, I'm creating the mock object. Okay. So for understanding purpose, let me print out the class name of that. User DAO dot get class dot get name. You can see what is the name of that mock. Dummy implementation class will be created. That is called mock object. Guys, in the mock object, any logic will be available. In the mock object, logic will not be available. For the mock object, logic will be available. For the mock object, logic will not be available. Come on, guys. For the mock object, logic will be available. For the mock object, logic will not be available. No logic. It is a dummy object that we have created. How we created that dummy object? My service is dependent on the DAO. Instead of talking to the real DAO, my service will talk to mock DAO. Now you see, I'm injecting real DAO object into service class, or I'm injecting mock DAO object into service class. Am I injecting real DAO object into service class? I'm injecting mock DAO into service class. Guys, am I injecting real DAO into service class? Am I injecting mock DAO into service class? I'm injecting mock DAO into service class. Does this mock DAO having any behavior, or this mock DAO does not have any behavior? This mock DAO does not have any behavior. I need to define the behavior for the mock DAO. So in the mock DAO, we are calling find name by ID with some ID as an input. So now here, what is mocking means? We are creating the dummy object for the DAO, and for the DAO, we need to define the behavior. What I'm going to tell here, observe, this step is very important, guys. User DAO dot find name by ID. If we pass ID as a 101, then return. If we pass ID as a 101, then it has to return some value. Okay, how we are going to define that? Power mockito dot when user DAO dot find name by ID. If we pass ID with 101, then return some value. Return some value as a John. Okay, so here I'm creating the object for the DAO, mock object for the DAO. For that mock object, I'm defining the behavior also. What is the meaning of that? Whenever somebody calls find name by ID by using this mock DAO, you return John. If somebody calls 101 by passing input for this method, if anybody call this method by using mock DAO object, that method should return John value. So here what will happen? Whenever service method calls DAO.findName by ID, it will return John as a output directly without executing the real DAO. Here mock DAO method will be executed. For the mock DAO method, I'm setting the value. If anybody calls mock DAO.findName by ID with 101 as the input, then you return John as a output. So that is the meaning of defining the behavior for the mock object. Now you see here, mock DAO is created. For the mock DAO method, we have defined the behavior and we have injected that mock DAO object into service. Now we can call service dot. Now we can call service dot find service dot get name by using 101 as a input. Service method will return some name. Asset equals. What is expected value? Expected value is John. And what is the actual value? That is the name. So here, my DAO method will return John as a output. Service method also will return the John. If my expected value is matching with the actual value, then we can say this test case is pass. Okay. So let me represent this as a test by using @test annotation. So this is called isolated unit testing with the mock object. I want to test my service layer method. So when I pass some ID as an input, is it returning the name or not? From where it will return the name? Whatever the name it is getting from the DAO, same name it is going to return. But DAO not available. That's why in the service, I'm injecting the mock DAO. Here I'm creating the mock object for the DAO by using mock method. Only mock object is not sufficient. For that mock object, some behavior is also required. Power mockito.when DAO.findName by ID, then return John. I'm telling that wherever we call find name by ID method with the mock object with 101 as the input, then it will return John as the output. That mock object created, for the mock object we have defined the behavior. That mock object we have injected into service and we are calling that service method. So if that service method giving some response, if that response is matching with the actual response, then test case is pass. Are you guys able to understand this logic? If you understand this logic, then only you will understand. Next example, Spring Boot REST API unit testing. There also we need to implement the same story, mocking. Are you clear? Are you guys clear with this logic? Creating mock object, defining the mock object. Creating the mock object and defining the mock object. Right, just understand. So our concentration, how to create mock object, how to define the behavior for the mock object. Okay, test this. Run as JUnit test. Run as JUnit test. Yeah, it is failed. Java.lang.exception initializer. What is the exception? Test get name. DAO mock object we have created. We have defined the behavior. We are injecting into service. Service.method. We are getting the object. That is fine. Run as JUnit test. A build path issue. Java build path. java.lang. Exception initialization error. Dependencies pom.xml. JUnit 4 only we have used. PowerMock module, PowerMock API. Dependencies should not be the problem. Maven update project, course update. Run as JUnit test. Class formation accessible module. Maybe some dependency is missing. Build path. Maven dependencies. JUnit is available. PowerMock is available. JDK 70. Apply and close. Enter it to test. Okay, 1 minute. Let me comment this package. Let me go for test. The previous example. JUnit to Jupyter. Yes, let me change the dependencies of this. Properties. The dependencies. We don't need to write any annotation on the test class because it is a normal Java application. It is not a Spring Boot application. If it is a Spring Boot application, that is a different story, but it is a normal Java application. You don't need any extra dependency. You don't need any extra annotations for that. When as JUnit test, no, it is failing. Let me do one thing, guys. So if it is a dependency issue, let me take these packages in the previous example where it is working. Okay. and test class also I will take there. Power market or dependencies I will copy. Not working, then we'll try with Spring Boot directly. I kept this in the previous project, guys. So here DAO interface is available and service class is available. Service class is having dependency with the DAO interface. Now I want to perform unit testing for the service. So I created mock DAO object. I have defined the behavior for the mock DAO. I injected mock DAO into service. Then I'm calling the service method. Whatever the value that I'm getting from the service method, I'm verifying that by using asset. Let's run this. Run as JUnit test. Now test found. Remove this and keep this JUnit package test annotation. Jupyter package test annotation I'm keeping. Run as JUnit test. Here also failing. Exception initializer. User service, there is nothing in the user service. It is a normal Java class which is having a variable. This is a constructor. We are calling the constructor by passing the dependent object. Dependent object is a mock object. Same thing, right? Power mock API mock into instead of 1.6.4, you are giving 1.7.4. No worries, same issue. Add this dependency. Let's try once. No. Test itself is not getting started. Excuse me. Guys, we are getting exception. Maybe the reason is the version problem with the power mode. Okay, but when we go for the Spring Boot, we no need to add these dependencies manually. The reason is Spring Boot is having inbuilt power mock to perform mocking for the application. So let me stop this. I will check why this version is not working. This worked previously, same example, but now it is having some issue. So if you see, our test itself is not getting started. It is saying some inaccessible object exception. So I need to do some analysis why we are getting this exception. What is the problem with the version? Okay. So meanwhile, Ishwar, is it working in your system with same dependency? Hello, Ishwar. Yeah, Ishwar. Can you share your screen once? Yeah. Ishwar, share your screen. Show me that. Which dependency is that? Same dependency. Then why not working in my system? Yeah. You can share your screen once. I gave you co-host.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Hi, Ishwar. Share your
Sir,
screen.
can you able to my screen? I
Yeah, I
shared my
can.
screen. Can you able to?
Yes, yes, yes.
Sir, this is my app, sir.
Okay.
When I'm running, it was working properly 1 month.
Run as JUnit test. Okay, it is running
It's
successfully
running
in your
properly,
system.
sir. Yes, sir. Same examples I have practiced. This is the version.
Okay, JUnit Jupyter. Scroll down. Maybe Java dependency issue. I'm using Java 17. You are using Java 1.8.
Yes, sir.
That could be the reason.
The same example, sir.
Yeah, I got it. So guys, see here, user DAO is available. User service test here created the DAO mock object in the line number 15 and defining the behavior for the mock object, injecting the mock object in the service layer and calling the service layer method. Okay. Now I will check it. Maybe the issue with the Java 17, why it is not working.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good guys. I will also check that issues. Good. So it is working with the same dependency, but in my system, I'm getting the issue. Maybe I am using Java 17, Java 8 uninstalled from my machine. I installed Java 17 in the machine. So I will check it. Why that issue is coming. What is the alternate for that? Okay. So anyhow, directly we are not going to use PowerMock in our projects because it is part of Spring Boot. Okay. Now let's do the unit testing for Spring Boot REST API. Okay. So when we are going to perform unit testing for the REST API, first we need to understand several annotations. Okay. So Spring Boot is having its own test framework. If you go for boot application, whenever we create Spring Boot application, by default, we are going to get test starter. So Spring Boot application is created. So the Spring Boot application is having web starter, dev tools, Lombok, and by default, test starter is available. We no need to add any extra dependency. We no need to add any extra dependency when we want to perform unit testing in the Spring Boot. In the previous example, we have added JUnit dependency and we have added mocking power mock dependencies. We are getting some version conflicts. Our test is not able to start. Okay. So here, when we go for Spring Boot application, here my Spring Boot application is having REST API. So welcome REST controller is available. Welcome method is available. Greet method is available. My REST controller is dependent on service class. Service class methods are returning some values. First, let me run the REST API and let me access my REST API methods are working as expected or not. Run as boot application. I'm running my boot application. Application started on the port number 8080. Okay. Let's go and access the methods available in our REST API. Localhost colon 8080 localhost colon 8080 / welcome. Okay. We are able to access one method. Similarly, localhost colon 8080 / greet. Yes, we are able to access second method also. So there are two methods available in our REST controller. Okay. So this is our REST controller. Guys, look at the REST controller. So to perform unit testing for this REST controller, mock object is required or mock object is not required. Guys, to perform unit testing, mock object is required for this or mock object is not required for this. Can you guys tell me here? To perform unit testing for this class, to perform unit testing for this REST controller, mock object is required or mock object is not required. Required. Why mock object is required? Why mock object is required? Dependent on the service layer. So here our REST controller is available. Our REST controller is talking to service layer. So instead of talking to the real service, we need to inject the dummy service and we need to perform unit testing. Okay, guys, when we are going to perform unit testing by using mock object, we are going to use some special annotations for that. So what are those annotations? Let us try to understand. Okay, now here REST API is available. In this REST API, REST controller is available. REST controller is dependent on the service. Now I want to perform unit testing for this. Okay, so go to welcome REST controller test class. So here logic is available. I'm removing this. We need to write this logic now. Okay, so fine. This is our normal class. In this class, I want to perform unit testing for my REST controller. So to perform unit testing for the REST controller, I have created one class called welcome REST controller test. I created a class with a name called welcome REST controller test. Inside this class, we need to write the logic to perform unit testing of our REST controller. So to perform unit testing on the REST controller, we are going to use some annotations. Okay, what are those annotations we are going to use? First, let me note down. Then we will use those annotations as part of our test class. Okay, guys. Now here, the first annotation we are going to use @web MVC test annotation. @web MVC test annotation. Then next one, we will use @mock bean annotation. @mock bean annotation. So now we are going to use one more thing called mock HTTP servlet request builder class. Servlet request builder class we are going to use, and we are going to use mock MVC class. Mock MVC class we are going to use in order to perform this unit testing on the REST API. Okay, so what is @web MVC test? @web MVC test, it is used to represent what is our target to perform the unit testing. So if you see here, @web MVC test annotation available, value is equal to welcome REST controller dot class. That means this is the class which is used to perform unit testing for this welcome REST controller class. Okay, so this is the test class to perform unit testing on the welcome REST controller. Welcome REST controller, that is a Spring Web MVC component. So for that, we are going to use @web MVC test. Then next one, Web MVC test I'm going to implement on the REST controller. If you see, the REST controller is having a dependency called service. Let me take this. Okay. Now service class should be injected into that REST controller. If you perform auto wiring, okay, the dependent object will be injected into target object. So generally in the Spring, we know dependency injection, dependent object we are going to inject into target object. To inject the dependent object into target object, we will use auto wiring. But here, if you use auto wiring, real object will be injected. Auto wiring, if you use, then what will happen? Real object will be injected. So do we need to inject the real object, or we need to inject the mock object? I want to perform testing for the REST controller. My REST controller is having dependency with the service. So do we need to inject real service, or we need to inject mock service? We should not inject the real service. So if I use auto wiring, real service will be injected. So that's why wherever welcome service is required, I'm going to specify mock bean annotation. When I specify mock bean annotation, what will happen? Dummy service object will be created. That a dummy service object will be injected into our REST controller. If I use auto wiring, real service will be injected. If I use a mock bean, mock object will be injected. Guys, are you able to understand why I am not using auto wiring? Why I am using mock bean? Are you able to understand? For the service class, why I am using mock bean? Why not auto wiring? I want to perform unit testing for the REST controller. So when I am performing unit testing for the REST controller, I want to test only my REST controller method. My REST controller is dependent on the service. I don't want to do the testing with the real service. I want to do the testing with the mock service. For that, I'm using mock bean. So wherever the service object is available, then mock object will be injected. If I use @auto_void, real object will be injected. If I use a mock bean, mock object will be injected. Are you guys clear with this? Difference between @auto_wiring and @mock bean? Very good. Now, in order to send the request for that, I need to inject one more object that is called mock MVC. Mock MVC object I need to inject into my test class that is used to send the request for the REST controller method and get the result. So I need to inject the mock MVC object. So that's why I'm using auto wiring. So what is this mock MVC? It is a predefined class in the Spring test framework. By using this, I can send the request for the REST controller. Earlier, whatever the methods we have tested, those are the normal methods. We created the object and we call the methods and we have tested. But now we are going to test a REST API method. How to test the REST API method? Are you going to create the object for the REST controller and are you going to call the method? Or you will send the HTTP request for the REST API method? Guys, so if it is a normal Java class method, we will create the object and we will call the method. If it is a normal Java class, we are going to create the object and we are going to call the method. But our target class is a REST controller. How to test the REST controller? Call the method or send the HTTP request for the method. Call the method or send the HTTP request for the method. Send the HTTP request for the method. So to send the HTTP request for the method, we are going to use a class called mock MVC. We are going to use a class called mock MVC. Now fine, I have taken test class and I have injected dummy object for that. By using @mock bean, I'm injecting dummy service object into REST controller. By using this annotation, so dummy welcome service object will be injected to REST controller. Mock MVC that is used to send the request. Now let us implement unit testing for that method. This method is welcome method. Okay, test welcome. Public void test welcome. Now I want to perform unit testing for welcome method. So unit testing for the welcome method. Okay. Welcome method dependent on the service method. First, we need to define the behavior for the service class method. Mock object is created with the annotation. How to define the behavior for the mock object? So to define the behavior for the mock object, I'm going to call when welcome service dot get welcome message is called, then you return the message as good evening. You return the message as good evening. So here welcome service mock object is created. For the mock object, I am defining the behavior. Now, so here behavior is defined for the mock object. Okay, here mock object is created. Here behavior is defined. What is the behavior? I'm telling that whoever calls welcome service dot get welcome message method, you return good evening as a response. So when you send the request for the REST controller method will call the service method. Service method will return the value. Instead of calling the real service, it will call the dummy service. Because this line will not be executed, we are going to inject a mock object by using mock bean. So in our project, wherever welcome service bean is available, that will be replaced with the mock welcome service bean. That is the power of mock bean annotation. So in the application context, in the IOC container, wherever welcome service bean is available, that will be replaced with the mock welcome service bean. For that bean, I'm defining the behavior. Now I need to send a get request for this welcome method. /welcome is the URL pattern. To send that request, first we need to prepare the request, then we need to send the request. To prepare that request, we need to go for mock HTTP servlet request builder class. By using that class, we are going to prepare request object. We need to send HTTP get request with the /welcome URL pattern. As I told you, if it is a normal Java class, we can create the object and we can call the method. But here we are doing the testing for REST controller. We are doing the testing for REST controller. Are you clear with my point? Yes. So let me create the request object first. How to create the request object? Mock MVC request builders. Mock MVC request builders dot get. I want to send a get request. What is the URL pattern? /welcome is the URL pattern. I want to make a get request for that. Mock MVC request builders dot get of /welcome. So I got the request builder. I got the request builder object. So by using this, I'm defining that I want to send a get request for the REST API by using /welcome as a URL pattern. Once the request object is ready, now we are going to perform the request. Okay. To perform the request, we are going to use mock MVC. Mock MVC dot perform whatever the request object we have created. Request object and return. Request object and return. So whenever I call request object and return, it is going to throw MVC result. It is going to throw MVC result. Whatever the result I'm getting, result dot get response. Result dot get response. So what is the response I'm getting? Mock response I'm getting. From the response, I'm going to verify response dot get status. So if that method is returning status as a 200, then I can say it is a success. Asset equals success status code is 200. Actual status value I'm getting. Okay. So this is one test case to perform unit testing on our get request method. Similarly, if you want to test a post request method, then you need to go for mock MVC request builders dot post. That post URL pattern. For the post method, whatever the input you want to supply, you need to pass that input. Okay, guys. So with this, are you able to understand how we are writing the logic to perform unit testing for the REST API? Are you able to understand how we need to write the logic to perform unit testing for the REST API? So if it is a normal Java class, if you see, initially we have done the unit testing for calculator class. Calculator is a normal Java class. In that normal Java methods are available. We created the object for the class and we call the methods to verify the result. But here scenario is different. Our target class is a REST controller. It can be a controller or it can be a REST controller. So if you want to test controller or REST controller, you should not create the objects for the class. You need to send the request using HTTP. You need to send the request for HTTP. Okay, guys. Now here, observe. I'm writing @webMVC test annotation. What is the purpose of @webMVC test annotation? That is used to represent what is our target class. What is our target class? What is the purpose of @mockbean? In the complete IOC container, wherever the welcome service is available, in that welcome service, it is going to use mock object. It will replace the real welcome service with the mock welcome service when the testing is executed. Mock MVC, that is a predefined class. It is used to send HTTP request from the unit test classes. Now, I'm creating one method. That method is having @test annotation. In this method, we are writing behavior for the mock object. When welcome service dot get welcome message, then return good evening message. This is where I'm defining the behavior. So service method should return good evening message. So here I'm preparing the request by using mock MVC request builders dot get /welcome. So /welcome is the URL pattern. It is binded to get request. Using that request, I'm performing that by using mock MVC.perform and return the result. Whatever result it is returned, from that result, I'm getting the response. From the response, I'm getting the status code. You can get the status code and you can get the body also. If you want to verify, is it giving the correct response or not? Response dot methods will be available here. Get content type, get cookies, get error message, get a header, get output stream, okay, get writer, is character set like this. So here there are several methods are available which are used to verify whether our REST controller method is giving the correct response or not. Our REST controller is giving the correct response or not. We can verify by using methods which are provided by this. Okay, guys, I want to verify the response based on the status code. If I get the status code as a 200, then I will assume that my test is successful. Otherwise, my test is failing. Okay, let's try to run this. Run as JUnit test. I'm running this test class. Yes, the test is executed. JUnit test is executed successfully. You can see that test welcome method executed successfully. Now, if you want, you can debug this and you can verify really the test is executing as expected or not. Right click, debug as JUnit test. We will understand the test case logic line by line. Guys, you see, in this project, we are not getting any problem because dependencies we are not taking care of. Dependencies are taken care by our Spring Boot. So you just create a simple web application with web starter. Test starter will come by default. Test starter will come by default. You no need to add any dependency for that. You no need to add any dependency for that. Okay, guys, good. Now, so here test class is executing. The method is having @test annotation. So by default, this method is getting executed. Go to next line, F6. Here mock behavior is defined and F6 request is getting prepared. Here mock MVC.perform, we are sending the request. When we send the request from the test method, it should go to our REST controller method. I kept a breakpoint in the REST controller method also to verify really that is going to the REST controller method or okay. Yes. Are we able to get the request to our REST controller method? Are we calling the method or we are sending the request for the method, guys? In the unit testing, I'm sending the request. I'm not calling the method directly. If it is a normal Java class, we can call the method. If it is a REST controller or controller, we need to send the request. We need to send the request. Okay, good. So here REST controller is available. Now in the REST controller, I'm calling service class method. You first keep cursor on the service. Is it a real service? This variable is holding belongs to real service object or it is belongs to mock service object. Guys, in the REST controller, real service object injected or mock service object injected. How can we verify? If it is a real service, you see here what method, what is the message it has to return? Good morning. But here you verify what method it is going to return. Is it returning good morning or returning good evening? That means real service method is executed, mock service method is executed. Real service method is executed or mock service method is executed. Mock service method got executed. Okay, it is returning response body with a status code as okay. So REST controller returning some response. REST controller returning some response. Now that will come to our test method. Okay, we got the result. We got the result. MVC result we got. From that result, we are getting the response. From the result, we are getting the response. So from here, you can get the response data. You can get the response status for your verification purpose. So now, what is the status code I'm getting from the REST API method? 200. When we will get the 200 status code, if it is a successful, then we are going to get the 200. Asset equals 200, expected value 200, actual value 200. Then my test case will be passed. My test case will be passed. Now you see, my test case is passed. Are you able to understand what is the logic we are writing here? Are you guys able to understand the logic we are writing here? Come on, guys. You see, we are defining the target class for that by using @WebMVC test. And here we injected mock bean welcome service. That means in our application IOC container, wherever the welcome service bean is available, that will be replaced with the mock object of that. Mock MVC is a predefined class. It is used to send the HTTP request for the REST controllers from the test. Here I am defining the behavior for the mock object. Here I am preparing the request. I want to send a GET request with the /welcome URL pattern. So once the request is created, I want to perform that request and return the result. Whatever the result I got, from the result I'm getting the response. From the response, I am validating the status code. Is it matching with 200 or not? If it is matching with 200, my test is successful. Otherwise, my test is failure. Do we need to add any dependency for this project, guys? Dependency is required or dependency not required? Dependency not required. Why? Because web starter we have added for the REST controller development. Test starter will come by default with the Spring Boot. Whenever you create any Spring Boot application, by default, test starter will be available. By default, test starter will be available. Now here in the REST controller, how many methods available to perform unit testing? There are 2 methods available to perform unit testing. We have done the unit testing for how many methods now? Only for 1 method we have done the unit testing. Can we see code coverage of our application? Can we see code coverage of our application, guys? Come on. Can we see the code coverage of our application? Yes. So what is code coverage? Code coverage is the process of verifying how many lines of code is covered as part of unit testing. Code coverage is the process of identifying how many lines of code is tested as part of unit testing. Okay. So to perform the code coverage, there is a plugin called Jacoco. There is a plugin called Jacoco. Here, Jacoco plugin I have added in my pom.xml. In the pom.xml, build tag will be available. Inside the build tag, plugins will be available. This is the plugin that we have added. Okay. If I remove this plugin, it looks like this. This is the default pom.xml build section we are going to get. In this, I'm adding one extra plugin that is called Jacoco plugin. So what is this Jacoco? Jacoco is used for code coverage. This Jacoco plugin, I have attached it to Maven test goal. Maven test goal. So refresh this application. Okay, refresh this application. Go to JUnit workspace, REST API, target. Now, inside the target folder, that site folder will be generated. Jacoco folder, index.html file will be created. Let me delete the target folder. So in this application, target folder is not available. Let me execute Maven test goal. Run as Maven test. Okay, I'm executing Maven test goal on the project. When I execute Maven test goal on the project, Jacoco plugin is going to execute. When I execute Maven test goal, then Jacoco plugin is going to execute. What that Jacoco plugin will do? That Jacoco plugin is going to perform code review and it will generate code review report. So let us wait. Maven test goal is executing. So here if you see the plugin configuration, whatever is there, that plugin configuration having a phase called a test phase. That means whenever Maven test goal is executed, then Jacoco plugin should execute. What is the responsibility of the Jacoco plugin? Jacoco plugin is used to generate code coverage report. What is code coverage? Code coverage is used to verify how many lines of code is tested as part of unit testing. How many lines of code is tested as part of unit testing. Corrupted std out by directly writing to native stream in the JVM1. Build failure. The 4-put VM version. Guys, with the Java 17, I'm getting a lot of issues. The 1.8, all these things executed successfully. Refresh. Run as. Maven build. Clean. Package. Whenever I execute package, test will execute by default. I removed Java 1.8 from the laptop. I installed 17 version. With the 17, lot of dependency issues I'm getting. It is failing. Command was cmd.exe. If I remove the Jacoco plugin, refresh, run as Maven test. Maybe Java 17 and Jacoco having some conflict. Let's see that. Now it is working successfully. So Jacoco plugin having some issue with the Java 17 version, guys. Again, I need to check what is the compatible for that. Okay. Yes. Now build success. Okay. But the thing is, I want to perform code review. I want to perform the code review and I want to generate the coverage report. Let me try to change it to 1.8 and run it. Edit. Execution environment Java 1.8. Apply and close. Let's try this once. Run as Maven test. No. Failing. Run as, run configurations. JRE 1.8. Apply and run. No. With the Java 17, it is not working. Java project facets, Java 1.8, Java compiler, build path 1.8. Normal execution is fine, but Jacoco plugin execution having the issue. No. Guys, that Jacobo plugin not working with 17. I need to see the alternate for that. Okay, let me remove it. Yeah, now here we are able to perform unit testing for our REST controller method, and this is executed successfully. There is another method available. Now I want to perform unit testing for this method also. Can you help me in writing the unit testing for this method? So when I am performing unit testing for this method, mocking is required or mocking is not required. Guys, to perform unit testing for this method, mocking is required or mocking is not required? Mocking is required. Why mocking is required? Because this method is also having a dependency. Okay, so let me create that unit test for this. I want to perform unit testing for greet method. Observe carefully what is the logic we need to write for that. Public void test greet method. Greet method is available. Greet method is having a dependency with the service. So let us define the behavior for the service. When welcome service dot get greet message method is called, then you return some value. Good luck. Something like this. Okay. So what is the meaning of this? In our project, wherever we call service dot greet message method, then it will return the good luck value. That is the mock object behavior. Now I want to send get request for this greet method. To send the get request for the method, there is a class called mock MVC request builders dot get. What is the URL pattern? / greet is the URL pattern. If it is a post request, dot post method we are going to call. Okay. So with this, I'm going to create request builder. Once a request builder is available, we need to send the request. To send the request, already we have taken mock MVC. So mock MVC dot perform. That request builder object I'm going to pass and return. So I'm going to send the request and it is going to return some result. So whatever the result we are getting, from that result, we are going to get the response. Okay. And return dot response and return dot get result and get response. Okay. So from this, we are going to get the response. Get response we are getting. So from this response, we are storing that into response object. Now response dot get content. Okay. Suppose if you are getting JSON data, whatever the data that you are getting as a response, get content as a string, get content length, get content type, whatever the content that is given by the REST controller method, you can get the content and you can verify that content is matching or not. Or if you want, you can go for response.get status and that status also you can verify. So it depends on whether you want to verify that result based on that status code or based on the condition. I mean, based on the response content. So here, as it is a status, how we will compare the status? By using asset equals expected value 200, actual value is available. Okay. And this is a normal method now. I want to make it as a test method. For that, we will use @test annotation. See here, this is one test case method. Here, I'm defining the mock behavior. And here I'm preparing the get request object with the greet URL. And I want to send that request. From that, I'm getting the response. From the response, I'm getting the status. And that status, I'm comparing expected status and actual status. So two test cases are available here. One is used to test a greet method. Another one is used to test the welcome method. Okay, let me run this. Let me run this test class, run as JUnit test. So these are two test cases to test our REST API methods. Okay. Fine, guys. It is executed successfully. Green color, that means it is success. Expand, test greet, test welcome. Both methods are executed successfully. Our unit testing is successful for REST API. Okay, look at this logic. Yeah, anybody having any questions? So you can unmute and you can ask me related to REST API unit testing. Same process with the put operation, post operation, delete operation also. Suppose, for example, if you want to send a post request, then you need to go with the dot post method. If you want to test a put method, then dot put method. If you want to test a delete method, dot delete. So you need to prepare your request based on the requirement. My methods are binded to get request. That's why I'm calling dot get. So you can call dot get, dot post, dot put, dot delete also. Anything is fine.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what about request frame and path variable? How to specify, sir?
You can pass to that method whenever you are calling that method, right? So that method itself is having a parameter. So whenever I go for dot get, can you see here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, second parameter available for that. Any path parameters you want to supply, you can pass for that. Or else,
Okay,
so if it is a query parameter, directly you can specify like this, na? Key comma value.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Sir, Sohini here. This is a interview question they have asked me. So, like, this is it means we are trying to hit a REST URL, right? So, it means can we say it as a integration testing rather than unit test?
No, it is unit testing because we are using mock objects and we are testing that. Integration testing means if you do it from the postman, then it is called as integration testing.
Okay, okay. So in that case, we no need to use the mock object, right, sir?
Right. So when
Okay.
you test from the postman, directly you will hit the REST controller to service to repository to DAO, directly it will execute. So that is called integration testing. Here we are testing only REST controller. Service, we are
Okay.
doing the mocking. So it is unit testing.
Okay, okay. Got it, sir. Thank you.
Sir, hello.
Yes.
Sir, any way to test the static method and final method in
Yes, sir.
this
So static methods are available, private methods are available. We need to discuss some.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So that is a task I'm going to give you. I want you people to come up with some analysis, how to perform unit testing for private methods in the JUnit.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Hi, sir. Hi, sir. Iqbal here.
Yeah, hi.
Here our methods, REST controller methods are returning string values. But in
Right.
some cases, if we want to give some binding objects back to our REST control method, then what should we return? What should we write in dot then return?
Here, whenever you call response dot get content as string, right? Whatever the binding object is available, that binding object will be data will be converted to JSON. You will get the JSON data as a response. Okay. If you want to verify the content is coming as expected or not, then you will call this method. It will give you whatever the binding object which is having the data will be converted to JSON. You will get the JSON as a response.
Then how should I match with assert equals to that JSON data?
So you need to check in the JSON the required, again that JSON you need to convert to Java object. You need to verify the data coming in that object are. That is a manual process. You need to do that. Now, when I call this method, I will get the JSON. Now convert the JSON to Java. Convert JSON to Java object. Verify data in Java object. So like that, you need to write the logic for it.
And here also by passing the dummy service object, I will get the original Java JSON object.
Dummy JSON, whatever the JSON that you are building in the REST controller, the dummy JSON you will get. You need to verify that JSON, dummy JSON coming correctly or not. You will not get the real data because your REST controller will not go to service method. Your REST controller will return some dummy data.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Fine, guys. So
Hello,
please
sir.
try to practice these things.
Hello.
And the task is, I want you people to do some analysis, how to perform unit testing for private methods in the J unit. Okay. So code coverage. So in the Java 17, it is not working. So let me do some analysis, how to generate the code coverage report from this application. Okay. So tomorrow we'll continue. Thank you, guys. I will upload the notes with the code. Okay, good. So tomorrow we have the JRTP class. Yes.